I'm learning how to be more in my body. I find I'm a lot more in my spirit. So it's been a bit of an adjustment. I would say this whole year has been really about figuring out embodiment better, like how to really settle into myself physically, but also the environment I'm in. So that takes up, I would say, a lot of my day. And it's a lot of my day, not just time-wise, but intellectually. Like I'm contemplating what embodiment is, and I'm running the experiments on different things. So that's how I'm doing. Trying to connect to the sound of how I'm feeling without necessarily needing words. So more like the sensation or the vibration of how I'm feeling without needing to like explain. It's more like I'm taking deep breaths to really get into my body and then notice how I'm feeling. And then if I want to tell myself how I'm doing, I don't limit it to needing to like name emotions. I could just do like the sound. So for example, say on the day when I guess most people do it, but we don't even realize. On the day where I'm not feeling so well, instead of going, I'm not feeling so well, I would go, hmm. And that's like the sound of the emotion, and it kind of gets to a more honest place of, just as an example, I know it sounds silly, but of like how I'm feeling. It's like a more authentic mirror or representation of how I'm feeling, because I find sometimes words are limiting. As much as I love words, I love words so much, but I've gotten to a place, at least in my contemplations, where sometimes words become like a bit of a limit. So like how to get to the sound of how I'm feeling that particular day. I've always been, I guess, described by people around me or family, if we want to go from very early on, as very, very deep, almost to like a detriment. So it's kind of just always been like some of my earliest memories have to do with like deep contemplations in this way of just trying to understand things that can't be explained. So I was closeted about that for a long time. But as I've aged, it's more like a embodiment coming into just being that publicly, yes, but also for myself as like how I show up. I have memories, some of my earliest memories is like me gazing at the sky, and I'd had this like little white piano that I would take everywhere with me. And you could kind of like, I would tie it like as a purse, and then I'd have like my other little like really stylish purse and like my whole outfit, and I'd like dress up to go like be with the sky, and I'd like watch the sunset and listen to like space and then sing back to the sky. So like this has always just been, to me, spirituality or like peace was always connected to sound in some way. And then the way I would clothe myself was like an offering to things that brought me awe. So like the sky or the inspiration I was hearing or like my spirit that I was connecting to. So my mom would see this and not really know what to do, because I was always also asking very intense questions about like the meaning of life and things. So luckily I had an auntie, so her best friend was a bit alternative, and she had a friend who was super into all of these things. So that was my first meditation teacher. I was maybe 6 or 7 years old. So that was like very nice as an anchor of like somebody who had spent their life in that realm and I could kind of be with her. And then she started teaching me like meditation practices, mostly centered around dreaming. So she would like go into dream trance and then get answers. She was kind of like the shaman of the community. It was nice having her in the sense that she made my difference feel normal and safe and okay. And then like I had a method to kind of go into my practice and cultivate this piece. There was like a system to it. It wasn't, because I guess we all, when you go on vacation and you witness something beautiful, like we all tap into the bliss or the peace eventually, naturally. But to have like a system where somebody she was much, much, much older than me, she had a system of like, this is how you go in. This is what we're asking. This is how you like tune into it. It meant the world to me. And still looking back, like it was really a godsend that the synchronicity of that I had her in my life early on. Most people knew me growing up playing sports. So like I was presenting more as like an athlete, even though like there was this whole world or part of me behind the scenes happening. And then like in my late teens, and there was like very intense things happening in my life, chaotic, that then brought me back to my spiritual practice in a way where then I kind of left everything behind and really devoted myself to that route in an open way, which felt jarring for the people in my life, because it's like, what do you mean what? You're like into Reiki? You're like, what? Like it just didn't, the people around me couldn't understand where this was coming from, even though for me it had always been part of my life. Always have been very creative. Because as I was saying, like from early on, I was like writing songs, always dressing up, making clothing. So creativity has always been there, but intentionally was more so like how I was saying that like 2004 crossroads where like all the dying was happening and I thought I wasn't living much longer. So I had asked myself like, okay, well, if we have 6 months left, because anyways, that I thought I didn't have much longer. I was like, how do I want to be spending my time? And at that time, it was like, I want to go back and take piano lessons, because as a kid, I was playing classical piano. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take piano lessons again. And like, this is how we're going to spend these last months. Mind you, I was still playing sports full time. People didn't know. My coach knew what was happening, like with my body not being well and like the deaths around me, but like all my peers didn't really know what was happening. So as I'm playing like sports very, very seriously, I had again this like closeted artist phase. And then I really feel like making that decision healed me, because then about 6 months later, when we went in for surgery, like the lump wasn't there anymore. And the only thing I had changed at that time was that I had decided to like honor myself more, like make music more consciously. I had just started yoga as a gym class in CJEP. And then I just became vegetarian. Like those are the only 3 things I had changed in my lifestyle that then made it so that my body completely like regenerated itself. And it was such an aha, like enlightening moment that like that just made me do the hard cut of like, okay, I really need to like take my peace seriously. It was just nobody else around me would even consider, like whether it's family, friends, like it was just not something on anybody's radar, that it didn't feel safe even like opening the subject matter with it. Whenever I would sort of kind of try with people, I'd get looked at like, what? This is like right now wellness is trendy, but like in the 90s and the 2000s, it wasn't like what it is now, where I'm sure there were pockets of it, but yeah, it just never felt safe to point to it as like the source of like, this is like the backdrop of what I'm doing. Like I'm chronicling dreams from like decades long. And like every time I need an answer, I'm like flipping through like dream books. Like there's, just like a deep, 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 deep spiritual practice that nobody around me knew, which is why I was saying that when then I chose to stop playing basketball, everybody was like, what do you mean? And to me, it was like, oh, I'm just finally getting to be myself. My art practice has really become part of like my wellness practice, I would say, in a conscious way where like, even though I do work as an artist now, like that's part of what pays the bills. It's also something that just makes me feel well. So like throughout the day when I'm doing like wellness days, I'll still like have that hour period where, okay, instrument practice, because like that makes me feel recentered in a way that is like very meditative for me, for example. Or like I find sewing like very, very relaxing in a way that like when other things are stressing me, if I can just like get to the machine and sew, like it kind of turns down the volume on like certain thoughts. So yeah, I'm learning to incorporate more like earthly things as part of like a meditation practice, trying to find the spirituality in like things that can be done without having to like close my eyes. I wish people could tune into it more because it would like soften some of what they were going through. But at the same time, through my practice, my meditation, it's a lot of like learning to not be in control and being okay with that. So a lot of like letting go. And that gives me peace. So yeah, it is difficult kind of being aware in the world and realizing that I contrast the environment oftentimes. Like peace tends to not be like sexy or like attractive in terms of like in people's day. Like it's not something that is like scheduled, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like, do my peace practice or like rest in a way that is like genuine, not just like sleep, but like really rest. And like not just now you're resting, but like resting to the point you're like tapping into like deeper levels of yourself. So like all these practices that to me feel so valuable and enriching, realizing that that's not necessarily everybody's reality. Wherever people are at in their process, I have to trust that that's where they need to be in this moment. Just like how I've been in the mud sometimes, and because I was in the mud, it gave me the insight I needed, and then I was able to make certain changes because it came from myself. But I'm always kind of around as like low-hanging fruit. If ever anybody needs that route, I'm like quick to like be like, oh yeah, this, but I'm not forcing or imposing my version of what I think wellness is. Yeah, so peace for me nowadays is in the allowing, as I was saying, like allowing myself to go deep into my practice, but also allowing people to be wherever they are with theirs, and not thinking that mine is better or theirs is worse or better. It's just allowing nature to be what it is. They will know when it's time for them to unpack certain things. It's not like on my timeline of, hey, I think this would like help you, soften the anxiety temporarily so you can like hear what it's actually saying. Because then that's intense. And once you have that information, then imagine then you don't act on the information yourself is giving you about a thing. That is like an uncomfortable place to be in. And then over long periods of time, right, you unpack something and then it's like, it's messy for a while. So I find that causes me stress also, of like the responsibility of like knowing the impact of certain practices and then the not forcing people to step into like the water before they're ready. All I can do is like go sit on the shoreline and like be peaceful. And whenever they're ready, they can like join. But yeah, it's still a work in progress. I haven't figured out all the details about it, but it's not easy. I've been with like horrible teachers where it's like it takes you years to come out of the like abuse of the thing. And then had I not had certain core practices to pull me out, I wouldn't even be here. So then seeing others roam free and like be drawn to certain things, I want to sometimes be like, oh no, don't go that route. Don't, because I've been there and I know certain paths are like not it. But again, people are free and they have the right to also go into things and maybe make mistakes within a thing, or maybe that ends up not being a mistake for them in the same way it was for me. So yeah, my practice right now, which again is very, very difficult, is of allowing people's in their right to be in chaos. And it's not for me to think I know what will help them navigate it. And that's the thing about spirituality, because for so long it's been very closeted, like there's no like regulation with it in the same way as like other mediums. So because of that, like there's not like a standard of like, you know, that this works. And like, I mean, there's some paths that like are set in stone, like people know, because like there's been centuries worth of like, for like Qigong, for example, or like Tai Chi, you know, okay, this path has been here for like millennia. But there's all kinds of other practices where it's like the wild, wild west. And that's part of the beauty of it. People will go and explore and then like build experience and know now what to do and what not to do. And at least I'm happy that there's an interest in wellness. I hope it's long lasting and not just a trend. Well, most of the time I'll dream it prior, but then even having that buffer, I get into the chaos of the situation. So it's more like it allows me to approach the moment, because it's like usually days before, and like amplify my practice a little bit so that by the time I get to the thing that I know is going to bother me, it still bothers me, but it's a bit softer. And yes, there's so many things we can't control. And I find when I stumble into them, that's part of what makes me human. Of even though I'm spending all this time like learning how to like cultivate peace, like sometimes I'm in circumstances and like it completely throws me off, right? And it's a nice kind of reminder of like just not necessarily humility, but in a way of like, yeah, like there's a long way to go. Like there's never this moment where I'm like gonna be this saint and in a cave somewhere. Like it's like, no, it's a constant practice of, you know, tapping into peace, falling out of it, tapping into it, falling out of it. The through line is I value my inner peace. So like I will always try and find it again, but it's not a constant. I value my inner peace. So like I will always try and find it again, but it's not a constant. It for sure is not a constant. It's like a tapping into it. I glimpse it, and in the like disconnection of it, because I glimpse it again, like that brings tears to my eyes. So it's this constant, like, I don't mind anymore, like coming off of it, because like every time you find it again, the relief is so magnificent that I'm allowing the stressors more. I'm allowing the environment, and I'm also like allowing the fact that because that thing threw me off, I'm gonna go deeper into my practice a little bit, you know? So it's part of the process. Yeah, peace is not a unbreakable. It is for sure 1000% very lonely, but not in a bad way of like it's more like for sure an aloneness in the that I think the peace requires, like a comfort with aloneness. But at the same time, there's so much bliss or like so much beauty in the mystery of like getting to know yourself on this like deepening level. So I really recommend it to everybody. I would say it's like it means the world to me having it in my life. And I hope people in their own way have something that can make them feel connected to something bigger than themselves, whether it is through meditation or however they stumble upon it. I feel like it is hard on some people in my life, the awareness that I'm very deep in my meditation practice. So that is like, I think sometimes it comes as like a point of conflict where I'm having to defend why I'm choosing to like spend my life in this like monk-like manner. I think it's difficult on the people closest to me. Maybe there's not the closeness that they imagine could be possible. Yeah, I would say, and that makes me feel sad because I don't want to be hurting anybody, but at the same time, there's a strong calling as to what I'm doing that is like a bit further reaching or like bigger than me. So like I know what path I'm on and I'll be on that path. So it's a lot of, just the grieving of like feeling people's sadness around the not feeling so close to me as they would want. I still feel like I'm a soft version of like myself, but it's still, I see how far I've come with it, and I'm really, really kind of happy with the version that's embodied now, and I understand she's still changing and it will deepen, but I'm relieved. It's like relief doesn't describe the sensation of I'm glad that I'm allowing myself to exist. Yeah.